Hello there and welcome to this primer video for Decks of the Season, Season 1. So this is the first season that we're running this event, and I said that I would go through the process of just recording my thoughts on the decks and play some either live on stream or as a video, just to sort of give a bit of an overview and my thoughts on how this is going to go for this season, how I feel about the decks, and just sort of some ideas about how either you can play them or how you can take part in this event this season. So between us, we've nominated 2 GDI decks and 2 NOD decks. So there is one that is a tech deck and one that is not a tech deck for each faction. And the idea being that you can play around with these decks this season, you can play them on the ladder, you can play them in customs, you can do whatever it is that you like, and just sort of share your thoughts on the Discord. We'll have a competition, we'll see who can get the best results with it by the end of the season, and just sort of get people using new units and new deck types. Some of them are serious decks, some of them are a little bit less serious in terms of how competitive they would be, but there's definitely lots of sort of room there for playing around with them and sort of seeing how they can go. I'm really excited to try out a couple of these because there's some units that I don't normally use in these decks, so that will also mean that my levels will be a little bit low, so we'll see how I do. But what I'll do is I'll go through each of the decks individually, share my thoughts, how I feel about them. I could be wrong, I don't know, but I'll see how, what my thoughts are and see how I do maybe on a ladder match, maybe 2 matches if the first one doesn't go too well. And then it's up to you guys to go off, play them, share your thoughts and let me know what you think. So let's get started with GDI first. Okay, so let's have a look at the GDI decks first. The first one's going to be this kind of Solomon build here. And I know that some people have been sort of well known for using an aggressive Solomon deck. I know there's a few people in our alliance that quite like the sort of aggressive Solomon builds, particularly those that have jump jets or drone swarms or your Talon or whatever in them. The idea being that you play some quite cheap, fast, mobile units and you allow that to take over the game with the ion cannon there to get rid of anything that your opponent tries to build that's big and beefy that goes over the top of that. This one also has an APC in it as well, which is obviously just an extra bit of tech to sit on a pad and be a brick. Usually you're going to want to try and play cheap, keep these units moving around, harass with jump jets, wind your opponent up, and I think you use that pressure to build APCs and then put them on the pads, and it basically completely prevents your opponent from taking over the game. If they do manage to get some tech units or something big out that you think can deal with that, you just make sure you save up enough money for your iron cannon. That completely shuts them down. I think that's the theory here. I'm not too prominent with this sort of deck. I don't know how well this is going to go, especially being in Masters with level 10 units, but let's play a game. Let's see how it goes. Definitely haven't really made use of jump jets before. I did play a little bit of APC early on when I first started playing the game, but this is all going to be quite new to me. Now we do want to open infantry because we've got plenty of options here for what we want to do. I think we win this with the rifles, and then we want to try and scout out what our opponent's going to be doing. Right, I'm going to carry on building rifles just because we want to charge the missile, and I am actually in a winning position with these. And then we've got a pit bull to deal with his venom. Alright, let's make sure our venom kills off our one-man rifle squads, just because we don't want those sitting around, if at all possible. And then I'm actually going to try and get a APC on the pad because I might have time here. Okay, he is going for a second harvester, so we're going to need to step up the charging a little bit. Let's get this here. Fight the lasers with our rifles, and then we should be good to go. Let's also use this chance to get another APC out, and maybe put some pressure on the harvester so that he has to spend a bit more money. Now we'll keep an eye on his building, see what he's going to do. He's already got his temple, so now we just wait and see what his tech unit is. What might be good is we're going to have our iron cannon hopefully just about in time for it. Okay, so it's an avatar. That will actually be quite strong against what we've got, so we'll need to ion cannon that. Not sure I can stop it without a direct ion cannon. Doesn't help that my ion cannon's a little bit lower level. We might have lost it already. Wow, level 10 jump jets are really frail. And then there comes the second avatar. Fun times. Okay, well, that didn't go too well for the first one. Let's kill this avatar and then we can let him win the game. Right, let's give this one another go and see if we can do a little bit better next time. Again, it's going to be tricky. I'm not experienced with these units and they're under-leveled at the same time, so it's not likely I'm going to do particularly well in Masters with these at the moment. But fingers crossed for the next one. See if we can get somebody a little bit more standard. Okay, don't recognise this guy's name.
3, 2, 1. New objective received. I'm on it. Harvester ready.
Let's see what you're up to, Mr. Thomas. Seem to be lagging a little bit as well. It's not helping.
Unit ready. Rifleman marching reporting.
Okay, we'll go into Talon here to deal with all of these rifles. And then we can protect our Talon with these missiles.
Unit ready.
And he fell for the trap.
Unit ready.
Right, he's built a second harvester, so let's give ourselves a bit of pressure so that he can't just freely get tech units out.
Unit ready. Missile cancelled. Unit level.
And then we can use jump jets to pressure as well. Now we also have a chance here to get an APC out on the pad.
Unit lost.
Let's also get another one out and get a forward position with it.
Ion cannon activated. Unit
Okay, so now we're going to need pit bulls. That's a misclick in order to be able to fight the stealth tank, the flame tank.
lost.
Can I get the shot off before the jump jets die? Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's keep this missile charging so that he doesn't get to overwhelm us.
Unit ready.
So the only thing we've got to do is just make sure this flame tank can't get to our base, and then we should be fine.
Missile launched.
If we'd have been a little bit more in trouble there, we might have had to save up for an ion cannon just to sort of keep hitting the flame tanks, but that one seemed to work out a bit better. Okay. Definitely don't think I'll be picking that deck for myself. Let's have a look at the second one. So the other one is the tech deck. This one here runs with 2 tech units and essentially runs like a really common 4-card core deck for GDI. Really, when you're building a GDI deck that doesn't open with War Dogs, you're playing rifles, missiles, and Pitbull. Razorback is also obviously a very strong unit as well that completely wins the infantry war against all your opponents, so you can fight a lot of things here. Pitbull's a really, really good unit, can fight light vehicles and aircraft, and then your barracks core gives you game against just about everything. So you can beat a lot of things with these 4 cards. Obviously tanks are a bit difficult to deal with because you only have missiles, and there are other things that will obviously beat this, but it's a pretty good 4-card core that you can sort of give a really good fight against most things. The idea being then that you use that to sort of fight in the early game and then move into your Disruptor and Zone Trooper combo at the end. There are a few different combos in this deck. You can default to the typical Missile Razorback combo, which then upgrades to Zone Trooper Razorback later on. Or we've got Jackson with Disruptor, Jackson with Razorback is really fun to use. Like, there's lots of little 2-unit combos and other tricks and bits and bobs you can do with this. Probably not the most serious or competitive deck. Disruptor itself isn't great, but it's fun and it's got a lot of things that you can do.
Establishing battlefield control.
Another person named Scorpion. I think there's quite a lot of people that have the username Scorpion on this game.
New objective available.
So we do open barracks because that's our 10 cost unit. And then we'll decide on what we do from what we see from our opponent. So he's just immediately built a second harvester. I'm actually going to go a bit aggressive early on and then find an opportunity to build a second harvester myself. See how that goes, and then if that doesn't work out, we'll try the other version with 2 harvesters early next time.
Unit ready.
Infantry ready. Marching orders received. Riflemen on it. Ready for launch.
Unit lost.
Moving out. Riflemen ready.
Now, we're going to need to get ready to switch into Razorback, because we can't fight shock troopers forever with rifles.
Building online. Unit ready. Unit lost.
And I'm actually going to boost this Razorback so that I can clear out these shocks quite quickly.
Ready for action.
Riflemen awaiting orders.
Nuclear warhead launched.
Now I'm going to build my second harvester. Now he's going to beat me to tech, but hopefully we can sort of work out a way of at least delaying it until we can get our own. Wolverine's not too scary really, I'm not relying on infantry very much.
Unit ready.
Yes, Commander. You can be my wingman. All right, strafing target.
Okay, you need 2 Razorbacks in order to be able to beat Zone Troopers, so if I put the one that's less damaged behind and then chase these guys down,
Warning. Enemy ion cannon activated. Unit lost.
and we might win just on being more aggressive than our opponent. I'm going to save up for my own Zone Troopers now.
Unit ready.
Let's boost these Zone Troopers into position. And your Titan can't beat my air units, I'm afraid, mate.
Nuclear weapon launched.
So we actually just managed to out-aggro our opponent there. Let's play it a little bit more like a sort of standard tech deck next time. Let's do one more.
Bounty complete. Bounty received.
Okay, we're going to go for 2 harvesters a bit earlier this time and see how we do. Might see if I can sneak in a Disruptor base kill, but it's going to be difficult to do with level 10 Disruptor.
Establishing battlefield control.
Kaitai, form Thailand. Don't recognise this guy's name, no idea what he's playing.
1. New objective.
I'm going to go harvester first, and I'm going to move it back so we can easily get out our second one. I am going to scout with rifles though, just to see what our opponent's doing. I don't want to be completely dead if he gets on the pads early. Yeah, so he's sending missiles around, that's fine. As long as he's not charging the missile while we're going for the plan of trying to get to our tech, that's absolutely fine.
Harvester ready.
Okay, we're going to want to switch into Razorback as quickly as possible here and at least try and slow this down.
Unit ready.
Now, close to our base, we can actually beat these shocks by just spamming rifles a little bit, but he might end up getting one of our harvesters here.
Unit lost.
Let's save up for Razorback.
Unit lost.
He knows I'm going to go Razorback, so he's bought a Talon, but
Harvester ready. Unit ready. Unit
okay, and then we need pitbulls for his air. Right, let's see how this goes. The missile's been completely stalled for ages, so we're absolutely fine as far as tech, but he might have his second harvester now himself, actually. I'm not sure.
Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit ready.
Okay, we're quite close to tech now.
Unit ready.
I'm going to boost this over here, because he's going to swap his Orca. And then missiles, and then we might actually win this missile. He's got one of our, or two of our harvesters, but it doesn't really matter. And it's Sandstorm that we're going to fight. Okay, we can fight that with zone troopers.
Unit lost. Warning. Our base is under attack. Unit lost.
And let's get our second harvester back out, and now we can spam tech units. Protect our zone troopers with a Razorback, and we should be good.
Unit enhanced. Unit lost. Unit lost.
This guy really wants to get a Sandstorm on my base.
Unit enhanced. Unit
Send another zone trooper down here. And we're good to go.
missile launched. Unit ready.
And there we go. Unfortunately, Sandstorm not a great unit. Even against level 11 zone troopers, I managed to stop Wolverine Sandstorm. So there we go. Okay, that's it for the GDI decks. We'll switch over now and we'll have a little look at the Nod decks. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Nod decks, and I'm going to do this part a little bit differently. As is like an option for you guys playing the decks of the season, what I've done is I've actually just played a few customs against Subletter using the decks, just to sort of make it a bit easier so I don't have to either play them on the ladder where I'm under-leveled, or just so that I can make sure that the games are a little bit more fun while I play with maybe my level 10 Rockworm. So what I'm going to do is, rather than go through them live and talk to you while I'm playing, is I've actually already played the games, and I'm going to look through the replays, and I'm going to talk to you about the deck, and I'm going to talk you through like what my thinking was when I was playing the match, and just sort of we can talk about some interesting things that happen. There are quite a few points to talk about that are really relevant to these decks as we go through the matches. So if we go back in my match history, the first one I played was, I believe, this one here. So we played a few matches, a couple of them didn't go too well, as in like we had issues, connection issues and things like that, but as far as I remember, these first two matches with this deck were pretty good. So this is the Nod non-tech deck. As you can see here, it's an Oksana deck, and it's basically the 5-card Nod, so lasers, fanatics, wheels, bikes and stealth tank, where you then take those 5 cards and then you fill in the final slot with something to kill tanks with, or to stop you from dying to enemy tanks. So 5-card Nod, generally I'm really familiar with. You can beat a lot of things with it. It has a lot of tools, especially if you have either Oksana to boost, particularly on the stealth tank, or you have Seth for flamers to help your anti-infantry or to steal pads. It's a very strong combination, and all you really need to do is put something in the last slot to stop you from just dying to enemy tanks. A lot of people don't realise this, but they see stealth tanks and fanatics and they think it's really strong, but you can just beat it by building scorpions or predators, because stealth tanks can't fight economically against tanks. They can't even kill a scorpion tank in one round, and the scorpion itself, if it manages to get close, can actually kill the stealth tank, and the scorpion tank costs less. So you need something in this final slot that can do that. So this is kind of like a Giga Fortress deck, because you can set fanatics up in front of the Giga Cannon, and then you can use the stealth tank to protect against air units. You can use wheels for cheap anti-infantry, and you've got lasers and bikes for cheaper anti-air if you need it. But what I'm going to be trying to do is setting up Giga with fanatics in front of it, and then protecting it with some kind of anti-air. So let's see if I manage to pull that off. Now, I played these matches without knowing what Subletter was actually going to play. We didn't arrange to do a specific matchup. He was allowed to pick whatever deck he wanted, so it's sort of similar to how you would normally play. So you're a War Factory deck, you're opening with the wheels, and at this point you sort of see what your opponent's got, and they've opened wheels as well. I'm actually going to do it with my Fog of War on, so we can sort of see how I'm sort of playing the deck and how I'm making my decisions. Now, I know that he's opened War Factory, so this is probably going to be wheels, wheels, bikes, bikes, and then I'm kind of hoping, okay, if he has a tank, I'm going to need to be careful. So what I want to try and do is sort of maybe delay this a little bit so I can get a Giga set up, or try and get myself in a really good position where I've traded well. Here he beats me, like he gets 2 bike squads against one of mine, so I'm already losing on the bike mirror there. So here I switch into lasers to make sure that he can't push that too hard. Now it seems he's done the same thing, he's got his lasers out, he's seen I'm a War Factory deck. Fine, so I'm using my Fanatics to counter that. This is very, very typical when you see Nod versus Nod with these kind of decks. So the idea is you use the Fanatics to clear out all the lasers, you've got bikes to fight wheels, and you've got lasers to fight bikes. Now I believe I managed to take this first missile, so the Chuggy comes along, and I think he manages to sneak it on because he's boosted it, which is really nice. I misclicked with my bikes, I think? Yeah, and he manages to get on. So I'm having to then push a little bit so I can still win this missile. Now I've not got to a point where I've had a chance to set up a Giga Cannon yet. So I'm going to have to push this a little bit longer. I think this is going to stall long enough, so that's why I bring out the Giga Cannon here. I'm like, okay, quickly clear this middle pad, and then hopefully I can just block and get this missile. Okay, good. So now I've got my Giga out and I've got a couple of units, but I'm quite fragile. So everything I'm going to be doing in a moment is protecting this Giga Cannon. And ideally I want to try and set it up so I've got some Fanatics in front of it, and like I said before, some kind of anti-air to stop it from being taken out by air units. So let's see what happens. So far we're not entirely sure what else he's playing. We've seen a lot of War Factory units, we've seen lasers, but there's actually something missing. Obviously it turns out it's Inferno, but we don't know this until this moment. So now I'm kind of in trouble. I am pop capped on units. I've only got one sort of weak anti-air unit, and my pop cap is only half recharged, so I'm in a little bit of trouble. The idea is now to try and throw away the wheels because I don't need them. So then I can exchange these wheels for something that's going to protect my Giga Cannon a little bit better. I don't remember if I managed to pull this off or not. So I'm desperately trying to protect this Giga because I don't want to replace it, and then I'm bringing out my Stealth Tank and some Fanatics. So now I'm ready to start setting up my Giga Cannon combo. I managed to catch the Inferno, and that puts me in a really good position. Now he can't push in all the time that the Giga's here with any of his units, and the Fanatics will deal with any laser squads he tries to walk forward. So this is the exact formation that you want with this deck. Like, this doesn't even fill up the 5th pop cap when it recharges, but these 4 units between them are what you want to be doing with this deck.
Stay quiet.
Now I build another Giga Cannon just because this isn't the best Giga map, so I can't put it in a position where it can cover more than one pad, so I use my final pop cap just so I can have a Giga on 2 separate pads, and I know that will win me the game. That would have been a fantastic outcome for Subletter had that game gone on a little bit longer there. So then let's have a look at this matchup again. I think for the next one, the map ends up being better Giga-wise, so I end up getting it out slightly earlier.
Establishing battlefield control.
So this one, is this Tug of War? I can't remember, I can never remember the names. But this is a really, really good map for Fortress style decks because you can cover so many of the pads that are really close together with multiple range units. Now I don't know whether he's chosen to use the same deck or not, obviously it does turn out he has, but it's the same thought process as before. I open War Factory, I see enemy War Factory, so I go into bikes, or if I see his bikes, I have actually got an option, this is a different way to play it, to save up and maybe go for the Giga Cannon instead. What you've got to make sure you do though is that you don't have the enemy bikes right up close to you the moment you build the Giga, so you have to use the wheels to protect them. So this is what I tried to pull off, and now he can't hang around here because this Giga Cannon is easily going to be able to stop. Now I mess this up and I have to boost in order to have a chance to kill this and make sure that I'm in position. And there we go. I'm already doing what I want to be doing. His sort of strategy here is to try and get his lasers in to kill these and sort of push me back so that he can contest this pad. But once Giga's charged up, it can actually still kill infantry. So I'm in a really, really strong position at this point. all I've got to make sure I do is that I put something in front of the Giga every time something dies. My priority is to take out the laser troops though, because those are the ones that are going to deal the most amount of damage to me if they get through. So he plays this well, he manages to sneak his bikes around. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite kill the Giga. I think it needs 7 bike missiles in order to kill a Giga in total. And here I am again trying to set up my main formation, 2 units of Fanatics. This is a mistake, building this 3rd Fanatic, I didn't need them. I should have saved towards a stealth tank. So, I decide to sacrifice my Giga Cannon here because it's low on health, and I also want at least one of my squads of Fanatics to go because I mistakenly built a 3rd one. Okay, so I need to set myself up again. I'm not the best on money, so what I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm using cheap units, and then I'm using my stealth tank to stop this Inferno from taking over the game. Inferno versus stealth tank is quite an interesting matchup, and usually the Inferno player can win it. I think Sub was maybe lagging a little bit, and it made it a bit tricky for him. But I do manage to take it out, I believe. Yeah. So there goes that, and then I just spam cheap units at the pads and he can't stop me. So really there, like you see, this deck, the idea really is to set up your little combination and just force your opponent to try to figure out how they're going to break it. And you've got enough game against lots of different things to stop them from being able to break you down. Okay, so we're going to move on to the other deck now. And I believe this most recent match was the one that didn't have any lag or anything like that. So the sort of tech, or labelled as tech deck for the Nod this season, is this one here. I believe Blade did a video about this recently, so if you check out his channel on YouTube, he can talk about this deck in much more detail than I can. But the idea behind it really is that Rockworm beats everything on the ground and Phantom beats everything in the air. So between these 2 units, you can take over the late game once you've got a couple of Rockworms protected by Phantoms. To get there, what you do is you play a really cheap core of units, so that way you're saving up money so you can get towards your more expensive stuff. You can play this on 1 Harvester and try and be super sort of economical in the early game so that you save up the money to get your Rockworm, or you can go for 2 Harvesters and just spam the Rockworms. There's a couple of different choices and it'll work out better depending on the map and depending on your opponent. So let's watch how this one plays out. Now I see that he's playing Solomon. Another thing that I'm going to have to bear in mind here, the Ion Cannon is going to be very strong against a Rockworm because it's not particularly fast. But if you can burrow it very quickly, and I think you have to boost when the Ion Cannon sets off, you can actually stop the Rockworm from getting hit by the Ion Cannon. So there's kind of a little bit of skill play there that's probably going to come in later on in the game. So here, I kind of want to stall the missile because I want to be getting to the point where I can set up Rockworms and Phantoms. So I'm trying to keep the pad sort of balanced as much as possible. He's doing a really good job with his cheap units of sort of keeping it charging. This is not much stall at all. So I then decide to push my lasers in. Now I've moved my Harvester back a little bit because I know I'm probably going to see if the stall is going okay. I'm going to build a second Harvester, which is what I've done here. Now I'm kind of in a race because I know I'm not going to be able to stop him charging. I'm in a race to getting my Rockworms out. Now I boost my wheels in the hopes of trying to get on a pad, but he's blocking too well and there's just no way for me to get there. Now money-wise, I'm quite far off getting a Rockworm, but I do make sure I open my airfield first so that I get the most discount on the Templar Nod, and then try to use cheap units to stall again as much as possible. Now here I see the MLRS, and I know that's great for me. MLRS isn't great against Rockworm because it can just sneak up to it, come out of the ground and wipe it out. The MLRS will get shots off on it, but it's going to be so good for the Rockworm player. If you watch this here, I know I can kill a lot of this stuff. Now he tries to move it away, he messes it up and he can't do it. So now you see what I said earlier about the Ion Cannon. I can't quite get the Rockworm back in the ground, so it dies. Now unfortunately for him, I have enough money to build another Rockworm. Now I don't manage to burrow this in time to stop it getting hit by the MLRS, but I know I can just move slightly forward and just wreck it. I made a misclick there, I should have just attacked the MLRS, it would have made much more sense. Now I've built a second rockworm, and what I'm doing with this is I'm just heading straight for his harvester. At this point, I just want to be able to make sure that I can take him out economy-wise, so he can't spam ion cannons. And taking out his harvesters is going to make sure that I can do that. So that's both of his harvesters dealt with. I know he's made some really good trades, so he probably got quite a lot of money. It turns out he does, but I do that to make sure he can't spam ion cannons long game. And then it's just a case of putting a rockworm on each of the pads. I haven't seen any air units, so I haven't actually needed a phantom. I think I build one just in case at this point, just in case he wants to spam an air unit, but it doesn't end up mattering. And there's the game. So, like I said with that one, the idea being that Rockworm beats everything on the ground, and as we saw, for Subletter's really ground-heavy deck, there was just nothing you could really do about them. So that's it for the decks of the season. Give them a go yourself, see how you get on. Add to the conversation in the Discord channel, let us know how you feel about them, whether you'd make any changes to the decks, and if any of you manage to do particularly well with them, make sure you show off your stats as well, and I look forward to seeing it.